everybody, it's Matt. I'm back up at the shop. We're going to be working on the fuel system again today. I finally got all those adapters and the parts, and I will tell you, I've already played around with it a little bit, and the little connector that I bought to come off of, my idea was to come off the fuel rail onto a AN6, female, and then mount the regulator directly to that. What I guess I didn't realize is that's a swivel connection, and that swivel connection cannot hold the weight of the regulator, and the last thing I want is with how much this thing vibrates going down the road for that regulator to vibrate to the point where either the fuel rail breaks or cracks or that adapter cracks. I don't want to risk having fuel everywhere. So I've come up with a new way to mount the regulator, which I will show you in a second. But I went down to Summit Racing. Luckily, I only live about an hour from Summit Racing where I'm at. And I got a new fuel filter because I saw them on Holley's website last night. And it's been so long since I ordered the parts for this truck that I haven't looked at Holley to see what all their new products are. So let me show you the old fuel filter that I haven't used yet. It was the one in I think 2 videos ago. I was holding it under the truck and I was buying insulated straps to mount it and stuff because it was so big. But let me show you that. All right, so this is the Aeromotive 10 micron filter that I had. It's a -10, and then I bought these -10 to -6 adapters, which were going from 3/8 to that huge -10. And I knew it was overkill. This whole package of 2 adapters and a filter, it's about $160 for everything. Now, when I was on Holley's website last night, I found this. And this is Holley's Vapor Guard fuel filter. And that's it. That's the whole thing. And you can see the size difference is just huge. And my filter, I'm using the retrofit kit to begin with. So the filter in the tank, or the pump in the tank has a sock, which acts as like a pre-filter, I guess. And then this thing is also 10 microns, same as this thing. This will flow 90 gallons an hour. This will flow a ton more, but I don't need that much more. My fuel pump can only do, I think, 65 gallons an hour or 68 gallons an hour. So this is almost 20 gallons an hour more than what my pump can do. Now, if I ever put a supercharger on the truck or I up the fuel system significantly, I'll have to go get this bad boy again. So, I could go ahead and do it and be done with it. But if I'm doing a supercharger, I have to drop the tank and a bunch of other stuff anyway. But I use this Vapor Guard system throughout the entire truck. It's these nice connectors. The fuel line doesn't leak. It's all EFI rated, huge pressure. And this thing is it shows in, out. You put the hose on, you put an EFI clamp on both sides, and you're done. This, I don't even really have to mount to anything. It can kind of just be in line and hang along the fuel system. The big thing is, this is $17. So I can buy another one just to keep around. Now, you can disassemble these, I believe. Maybe not. I thought they sold, I think you can actually. You can unscrew this side right here. They sell replacement filters. But for $17, I just keep one under the back seat. And if this thing ever gets clogged or messed up, I just pull it out and put the new one in. It's super easy. So I like this thing for $17 compared to $160 or whatever that combo was. And it's better. It's just easier to mount. It's better to fit under the truck. I just like it better. So we're going this route with fuel filter. Now let me show you the regulator. All right, so here's the regulator. Here's what I've done. I've hooked up an in hose, a return hose, and an out to the fuel rail hose connector. I've mounted the gauge, which I've got to take off because I'm not going to use it. I'll show you what I mean by that. And then I've taken the mount and I've inverted it. I've put it upside down. It usually runs along the back of the regulator, but this way I have more mounting space. And then I drilled that giant hole in the back. So normally that giant hole isn't there, the one in the very dead center. I drilled that out. And then if you see right there, that bolt hole on the head, I'm going to mount it right to the head, just like that. So it'll sit on the back of the motor. It'll be super accessible. I can read everything off of it. And then the hoses, the fuel lines will go in, return, and then out right there, up to the fuel rail. So it'll be a super short, like 10-inch run. So it shouldn't have a chance to get hot. I will put heat wrap around that as well. But that's the plan. Let me go ahead and tighten up these connectors. and take the gauge off to put on the new thing, and then I'll mount it to the head so I can kind of show you what the final product looks like. All right, so here's what it did. I've got all my connections. This one is the in, this one is the return, and this one is the feed to the fuel rail. Now this giant thing hanging off the front that I'm not a big fan of is the fuel pressure sensor. So instead of a manual gauge, I plug the Dominator EFI into this. It's a Holley product, even though it's made by, what is that? SSI Technologies. It's in Holley box. You plug that in, and then the Dominator now knows the fuel pressure coming in and can do things based on fuel pressure. And I will be able to see the fuel pressure on the digital dash that I have. So the only thing I don't like, and you'll see it when I put it in the truck, is this thing sticks way out. So I don't know if I can get a 90, like up and straight over. So it runs parallel with the out. It'd be up here. And that way it tucks in a little bit better. But I'll show you. I'm going to go ahead and install it. This bolt goes into the head. I got to put a little anti-seize because I'm going from steel to aluminum. And then I'll tighten it up and show you exactly what I'm talking about there. But, I mean, I love the mounting. Everything about it's great. I just don't like how much that sticks out. All right, so there it is. It's mounted on the head. Looks good. It's going to clear the transmission just fine. All the wiring's away from it. But look at so the doghouse will come up from here straight up. At least that's what I think it does. So it just goes straight up. You know, I don't think anything would come up and knock it off or shear it off or any of that. If I got a 90, it could come out and go that way, and then it would sit, you know, like that. But again, if I put a 90 on it, it's another place that it can leak. I'm trying to do as few connections as possible. The fuel line, which is actually right here currently, is going to, let me zoom out. This is the fuel line. It's going to come up, hook in here. The return's going to go there, so they should get together so I can zip tie them and go down under the truck. And then the feed is right here, and it'll just run right up to there, which is the feed into the fuel rail. So I like it a lot. I'm a little hesitant about this part. So, because let me plug it in and show you what it's really going to look like. So there it is plugged in. It comes with this little harness extension piece, but there it is plugged in. I mean, I'm almost... Now this, I don't know. We'll have to see how the doghouse is to whether or not this is going to be okay. If you are watching this video and you run a Humvee with a turbo doghouse, the big doghouse, tell me if it comes up from this line or does it come in at all? Because if it comes in at all, I don't think I'm going to be able to run it like this. I'll have to put an elbow in it and get it pointing that direction. But I like the mounting a lot. You can see the bolt down in the head. It's very, very sturdy. It's not going anywhere. I didn't put a lock washer, but it's, should be fine. Once the hoses and everything are hooked up, yeah. All right, well, next is to get these fuel lines arranged and kind of where they need to be and put them on and go from there. All right, guys, I'm underneath the Hummer. I want to show you real quick from the fuel tank. This is the feed line with the red tape and the blue connector. That's how I identify the feed line to the motor. That's the return, and then I have a vent line right here. So what I did is I disconnected both lines, reran them, rewrapped them, and then I've already got the return set up with a insulated hose clamp. And then look how nicely that new fuel filter fits inside this insulated hose clamp. It mounts, you can get a better view than I can. It mounts up here on a factory tab underneath the truck. And so it's really secure. It's not just going to hang there. It's insulated. It can vibrate a little bit. You want to allow movement. Rigid stuff breaks. So now all I have to do is go from here with an AN6, which I've already got the hose, cut the hose, reclamp it here, go here, and then from down here, right there is the fuel pressure regulator. So, I mean, I'm literally going from here to here. It's going to be clean. It's going to look nice. It's definitely way tucked up out of the way. So I'm going to go ahead and start cutting hoses. I got to, you know, obviously this thing's really long, and it only has to go to right there. So that's the return. It's just going to hook up. I mean, it's going to look so good. I'm really excited about the way the fuel system's turning out because I was really nervous about it to begin with. So I'm going to go work on it a little bit more. But I love that $17 fuel filter right there. All right, so here is the finished product. Red hose feed line, black hose return line. Blue means feed, black means return. Got our filter, says in, out. Fits perfect in this hose clamp. Got our other one. Everything is heat protected except the filter. I'm gonna figure that out. Goes up. Look, so much crap is right here, but once the transmission in, a lot of this is out of the way. Goes up and then to the regulator. I'll show you that from the top, but it hooks into the feed, the return, and all I have to do now is go from the out to the fuel rail, and the fuel system will be done. That's a better kind of view of how that stupid sensor pokes out. So I am going to get a 90 and at least try to get that out of the way, see how that works. But yeah, I'm really, really happy with it. Let me see if I can, there we go. So that's kind of a picture of, it's tucked away, it's away from here. I did just realize that I need to, usually I take these winch power wires and I hook them up. You can see the little holes right there. And I have hose clamps that I hook these to. So I need to, it looks like I ran the fuel line over them, which is fine because I don't want, I'd rather, God, sorry about the camera work, I'm looking at what I'm doing. I'd rather these be close to this exhaust than the fuel lines, obviously. So I'll just have to figure that out. I mean, even if these sit on top of the transmission tunnel, it's not that big of a deal. And if I have to, I can go back and heat wrap these. But these are just huge double-aught red, again with the camera, sorry. Double-aught red power wires for the winch in the front and the 14-volt feed for the alternator. Or 24-volt, not 14. So I'm going to go up top, play with some of these, make sure I did that where I can get these the way I want them. I was trying to really focus on that. And then I'll show you the fuel pressure regulator from the top, but I've got to run that line from there over and should be it. All right, here it is. There's a lot of crap back here. Trust me, I understand that. I'm crazy enough that I will get this sorted out, but you can see fuel pressure regulator. It's got the feed and the return hooked up and done. This time, instead of the Oetiker clamps, I used the fuel injection clamps. We'll see how they do. Those things are so hard. The hoses are so hard to put on. I'd be blown away if anything's leaking. And then, you know, we go from the out up here to the fuel rail. The only thing I'm not in love with on this fuel rail, let me move the throttle cable real quick. See if it'll stick. It's not. It's just going to do what it wants. There's some movement because this connector, this slip-on fuel rail connection, you know, it doesn't like screw on. It just clips on with an O-ring or two O-rings. So hopefully, you know, that's not an issue. We'll see. When I turn it on, when I put the fuel pump, I'll be able to see or watch if there's fuel spilling out here. But I'm really happy with the way it turned out. I'm happy with where it's mounted. Other than this sticking out, if I can get this to turn in towards the driver, then, you know, it'll be out to here, and then I'll have plenty of room. And then all these wires that you see hanging, they are, like I said before, they're mounted to these holes with hose clamps. I don't know where my hose clamps went. Like, here's one. And they mount like this over the transmission tunnel. And then I've got them over here where they'll hook up over here and they'll just be out of the way. And I've made sure there's enough room to do that so I can bring them up, get them off the transmission tunnel, hook everything together. They don't bother the fuel lines right here coming up. Everything that's important has heat wrap on it. So I'm excited. I think it's turned out really well. I got to get that kind of out of the way. It looks like a mess. Trust me, I understand, because right now it is a mess. But, you know, when they give you these harnesses and everything goes, this is all supposed to be behind the motor that nobody really sees. But on a Humvee, I have this access panel, which is a blessing. and I can get to the back of the engine. And that's where most of this stuff is on my build, because when you look at it from the front, it's going to stay really nice and really clean. But one thing I will show you, let's see if I can zoom in here. Does everybody see this yellow connection right here? So the Holley Dominator kit gives you maybe, I don't know, 6 inches, 8 inches of that on the front driver side of the harness. Well, this is what plugs into my fuel pressure sensor right here. So I can't wire it. So I'm just going to buy Current Performance sells an extension. From there, I plug it in there and it reaches all the way back and it plugs in back here. So I got to get that. I've got to order that. But the fuel system's done. Everything's tightened up. It's ready to check for pressure. The cooling system, I need one piece for the cooling system, a 90-degree 3/8 nipple for a hose, and then I'll be able to pressurize the cooling system to make sure it's done. So, I mean, we're getting really close. I'm going to try tomorrow, maybe, to put the transmission in. Because once the transmission's in, I can clean all this up, get everything where it needs to be, and hook electricity up and test the fuel pump, the fuel system, make sure there's no leaks. If my part comes, which it's supposed to tomorrow for the cooling system, I'll pressurize it. And yeah. So that's going to be it for tonight, guys. I'm really happy with how everything has turned out so far. I've learned a lot. I mean, I couldn't be happier with the fuel system layout, the filter fitting into that thing, not having to use that huge Aeromotive filter. I was kind of bummed about where to mount that and stuff. I do need to get a 4L80E dipstick for the Hummer so I can retrofit it into here with the LS motor. Then I bought, and this is a little disappointing, but whatever. I'm not going to go with the, what's the shifter? The slap shifter that I bought. I'm going to go with a factory 4-speed Hummer shifter, only because it's going to speed this process up tremendously. All I'm going to have to do is make the adapter for the Atlas shifter fit, but the transmission, the 4L80, all that will hook up. So it's going to save a bunch of time. And I hope you understand, because I want to get this thing on the road. I want to travel in it. I want to go have fun in it. So I don't want to spend weeks and weeks trying to build some kit that makes that shifter work. And I'm probably going to have to cut the body. And that's what really turned me off to it, is I don't want to cut this thing up, because I mean, I really like it, believe it or not. And so I'd like to keep it, for the most part, body-wise, without cutting it all up. And then, you know, I think that's it. If I think of anything else, I'll kick back on here. But if not, y'all have a wonderful weekend, or whenever it is when you're watching this video. And we'll kick back to it tomorrow and hopefully get the transmission in here.